What's up, everyone? I am Stoppo. Welcome back to another podcast. Today, I have a very special guest, Dino, player 380.
Hey guys, how you doing? Hey Stoppo, thank you for inviting me to your show. I'm
Yes,
excited to get this started.
yeah, welcome. Um, our first question of the day is, how do you get cast onto Beast Games?
That's a great question to start with, of course. And so, for all of you out there, if you didn't know already, but I worked as a Beverly Hills firefighter captain, fire captain and paramedic in Beverly Hills for over 30 years. And about 15 years ago, while on the job, there was a casting agent that came into the firehouse and talked to the chief and said, "Hey, we're casting for a show called Wipeout." Wipeout is a an obstacle course that's done over water. If you've heard of Wipeout, they were doing a special edition called America's Finest. It was the firefighters against the police officers, against mailmen, like all civil service. And so this casting agent asked the fire chief, said, "Hey, we're looking for a fireman that would like you think that would do really well." And the fire chief says, "Hey, talk to Dino. He's into doing all the TV stuff." And so I interviewed for the show and ultimately was casted for Wipeout, America's Finest, 15 years ago. And so you guys will have to tune into that show. So look up Wipeout, America's Finest. So I did Wipeout. I did quite well. I didn't win, however, but I was the fastest through the whole thing, went all the way to the top. I was in the top four for the final, and then I had the fastest speeds all the way to the end, and somebody beat me by a couple seconds. So, long story short, it was the same casting agency, Mystic Art Pictures, is who casted Beast Games. And so, get this. So, 15 years later, I get a phone call, and I'm retired now. I did my 30 years in the fire service. I'm sitting at home in my pajamas. The phone rings, and it's Katie Wallen from Mystic Art Pictures, and she says, "There's this new game show coming out, and it's like a kind of a mixture of all the different reality shows that are out there. We think you'd be really good for it, and if you want, we could help get you casted, and we'll get you in the show."
That's really impressive, just that they saw your number 15 years down the line and you got called and like, you want to be on Beast Games? Sure.
Yeah, and they said they had over, I don't know, 150,000 people apply for it. And out of all those, I was personally invited to fast track, and they said if I say yes, they're putting me in the show. So that was felt very special, and I love you guys out there, Mystic Art Pictures. You guys are the best, and thanks for keeping my phone number all these years.
So speaking of numbers, how do you get yours?
Good question. We actually started with 2,000 people. The first, it was like an elimination round of 1,000 people, and that took place in Las Vegas at Allegiant Stadium. So 2,000 contestants. We lived in Allegiant Stadium, where the Raiders are, right? We lived in the football stadium, sleeping on sleeping bags. 2,000 of us doing different challenges every day for about a week. And after every challenge, people were getting eliminated and so forth. And so, one of the challenges we had to race and try to capture this flag. And so people were going in different groups, and they only had so many flags for so many contestants. And if you ran, once you cross the red line and you're going to go and run after this flag, if you don't get it and somebody else beats you to it, then you're out. You're eliminated. So I was helping tons of people as I normally would, and I'm just helping people, go and capture their flag and telling them which ones to go for and so forth, and just trying to really be supportive and be a good team leader. And then the time came when all of a sudden that flag number 380 was sitting in front of me. It was about 50 yards away. And there was all these people standing around and everyone's going to go for it. And all of a sudden I just took off, when they blew the whistle, I just took off running as fast as I could and captured that flag. And that's how I got my number 380.
Wow, that's just super cool. That you just ran, grabbed the flag, boom, 380.
That's it. Yeah. So there was so keep in mind. So like I say, now on if anybody out there, any of your viewers, your subscribers want to watch the first portion of Beast Games, you would look up it's only on YouTube. It's only available on MrBeast's YouTube, and it will say 2,000 people compete for $5 million. That's how you can find it. And those are the same. So 1,000 of those 2,000 were the ones that advanced to the Amazon show. So while we're in the Allegiant Stadium, those 2,000 people, everyone's strategizing and making friends and doing everything they can to, to try to, get into that top 1,000 group, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. So did you know anything like Mr. Beast prior to Beast Games, or was this the first time you've heard of him?
That was the first time I heard of him. I didn't. My grandkids, Luke and Levi and Audrey, they're 7, 9, and 10. They're way familiar with Mr. Beast, and my wife Samantha knows about Mr. Beast. However, to be quite honest, I mean I'm 60 years old, and I don't watch a lot of the YouTube channels and stuff like that. But so yeah, learning about Mr. Beast and what he's done and all his philanthropy and how many thousands and thousands of people he's helped around the world was just very inspiring. And so I was blessed to be accepted for his show.
Yeah, like I know a lot of people have different perceptions of Mr. Beast. So like I know, there's probably obviously the group that was like just going crazy. OMG, it's Mr. Beast. But like what was your sort of perception when you met him?
Um, Good. I mean, just he was very high energy, very, great personality. He was interacting with everybody as much as possible. However, keep in mind when it was in the Allegiant Stadium when we first started with 2,000 people, there was no way he could go around and meet everybody and shake everybody's hand. And so
Yeah.
as you advanced along the show into the 1,000 for the Amazon show, and then the 500 that went to B City, and then the was the 50 of us, 60 of us that went to the island. And as the numbers got smaller, he was coming around more and more often and spending time with us and talking to us and so forth. So, uh, but yeah, I thought he was a very, very nice guy. I'm impressed with him. I'm very happy for his success, and I think he's doing a good thing out there.
Yeah, I agree that he's doing a lot of good in the world, and it's just amazing to know that there are people out there like that. So, like I know people sacrifice a lot to be on Beast Games. Was there anything that you gave up or sacrificed to be out there?
I had a vacation planned. I was supposed to go to I think it was Bali with my wife for our anniversary, and then and I postponed that. I canceled that. So and that's fine. But she was yeah, she, at 34 35 years of marriage, it was our 35th anniversary, and I had to postpone our anniversary. So the our vacation. But it was all good. We got that rescheduled, so we're looking forward to that. But for me, being a retired firefighter, I like I say, I have other stuff. I own a safety company called Celebrity CPR. I teach people to save lives. I do everything fire, medical, and disaster, equipment sales, training, and so forth. And so I stay busy with that. But as far as sacrificing anything specifically, it's not too much really. I mean, my schedule, I made my schedule wide open to do this show, and I was going for the W, man. I was going for that win. I wanted that 5 million.
Um, so yeah, so you gave up a lot to, or people gave up a lot to be there. So how long were you out there recording, filming?
I believe that first go around at Allegiant Stadium when we first all got casted, those 2,000 people was I think we're up there for about just over a week, maybe 10 days, living, sleeping in sleeping bags on the football field. So that was pretty crazy. Uh, that was something else. And then once we advanced to the Amazon show, so in between the Vegas show and then that elimination round, we actually everybody went home for about a week or two. And so we had a little bit of a gap before we advanced to the main show, the Amazon show. And so once we did that, we were all flown to Canada, and so we filmed in Toronto, Canada. And then from that point, I mean, if you get eliminated, you go home right away. But I was fortunate to, come out top 11, as you know,
Yeah.
and so out of 2,000. So I'm very proud of that. And so I think my time there was probably 5 weeks or so, something like that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was quite some time.
Then how much would you say the games were luck versus skill based?
Oh, luck versus skill base. Good question. Um, I think it was well balanced between the two. A lot of the stuff he puts, in some cases, he'll put your fate in your own hands and he'll put a bribe up and he, just to see if you want to take the money and hit the button and sacrifice yourself and go home for the money. Or sometimes your fate is in somebody else's hands. And then that's where the trust, the loyalty, the integrity, all that comes into play on whether or not do I trust this guy. And so that's where I had a lot of, friendships were made when I let them know that, hey, I was a retired firefighter and fire captain, and I wasn't going to sell out my integrity. I let them know I was a no bribe. I'm not a rich man. I just, I was in it for the face, the FaceTime. I wanted to be on camera and so forth. So I was just having fun with doing all that. And so when those bribes were coming up, as you saw in episode one of Beast Games on Amazon, that he put up that $1 million and he said, whoever wants to hit the button, however many people hit the button, they're going to split that amount of money. People just started hitting that button right and left. And I think it ended up being about 52 people shared $1 million. And they each went home with, I think, just short of 20,000 each or something like that. So, but once again, so that was an offer where my fate was in my own hands, right? So as far as skill base, yeah, I guess it's a personal thing if you wanted to hit the button. And so I chose not to, and I stayed in the game.
Great. So we're as we go into episode 0 here, this is going to be partially episode by episode breakdown to a sense, shrink down for time's sake. But so what was your initial strategy for episode 0?
Episode 0. So would you consider that the Las Vegas games?
Yeah.
Okay. Uh, I think just be myself, honestly, and that has to do with a lot of the reality shows out there. They say, "Gosh, how do I make the best interview?" Or, how do I get on the show? And it comes down to just be yourself, just be Stapo, just be Dino. Okay. And so just be yourself, be the person you are, and that's what I was. It's like I have a big heart. I love people. I'm very personable. I like, the old, the young, I mean, just, I've got love for everybody. And so episode 0, I was just bouncing around, just, seeing people that I made eye contact with and made some small talk conversations. Where are you from? What do you do? And this and that. And then just kind of built some small little alliances with a bunch of different groups. And as we moved on through the games, those alliances, we were able to merge those and become a bigger alliance as the games went on.
Yeah, so like as we go into the first 2 minutes of episode 1, we see just everyone screaming, we see all that excitement. Is there anything that's like certainly going through your head as like we go into episode 1?
Episode 1, that's when he's giving away that first. I mean, we're in the first 3 minutes of the game, and he's giving away $1 million. Everyone was just going absolutely crazy, as you can imagine. And so, sure enough, it's like when he put up that time clock of, I believe it was 10 minutes, and he says, "You got 10 minutes to make a decision if you want to, get in on this $1 million." And everyone was, people are saying, "Don't do it." And other ones, people are saying, "Do it." Some of the people that were in my alliances from episode 0, I knew that they had personal family commitments and kids graduating school and a lot of different commitments. So they said if a bribe came up that they felt was worth their while, that they were going to tap the button and get out. But they did have the respect to say they wouldn't want to take one of us out. If it meant taking one of our group members out, then they would have held off on hitting that button. But that was more of an individual, your fate was in your own hands for that one.
Yeah, we also saw, as you said, we see bribes throughout the show. I mean, the odds are so low of winning, especially when there are 3,000 people there. I know you said it's for the screen time, but was there ever a moment, and we'll get to the $1 million later, but was there ever a moment where you're like, this bribe is worth it, my odds are so bad, why not just go for it?
Um, No, I think there was several bribes along the way. There was like ones where you did the rows, the long rows, and the cross the other way. And I was just sticking to my word. I let people know that I was going to be a no bribe, and I stuck to it, and I was a man of my word and kept my integrity. And loyalty and setting an example for everybody out there, all the viewers watching, even my family, my grandkids. They know Papa Dino is, you know, is the real deal.
Yeah, so then after our the towers, we see everyone fall. That's an amazing shot, by the way. I love that. We see everyone fall. You enter the city. So we see like sort of the city shifts from episode 2 to episode 7 when you were eliminated. What's sort of that shift since you started off with 500 people, then you get down to like 20? What's that like?
Pretty amazing. The yeah, I mean the energy was there. I mean every day. I mean you're waking up in your dorm, and I mean I'd wake up at about 4:35 in the morning every morning, and I'd get up and get dressed, get ready for the day, and basically I'd walk over, and in the middle of Beast City, as you see it on when you watch the show, he had $5 million in that glass case in the center of Beast City. So every morning I would just kind of not really meditate, I would say, but I would just do some inspirational, thinking and talking to myself and so forth, and just saying, I can do this. I'm a winner. I'm a winner. And I would walk down the walk path to the money, and I would just, uh, basically, ask, believe, and receive. Just, ask the universe
Mhm.
that, hey, this is mine. I can do this.
Mhm.
And just, but yeah, just having like a lot of positive energy, just trying to make friends whenever possible and not hurt any feelings. And I didn't want to, sacrifice anybody else for my better well-being.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, I really like that answer because you don't want to sacrifice anyone else for your well-being. And like that I also feel comes up like when you said no to the million because you see the number going up, and it's just like, is he gonna take it? And I had no idea. I was like for a moment I was like, why aren't you taking it? But like that was my first watch through. When I rewatch it, I'm like, oh, I get it now. Like I see how much those people mean to you and how much they need you. So one of the things that I was curious about here is how did they pick you to go up on top of the tower and say no to the bribe?
So, how was I selected as the team captain?
Yes.
I think just by building relationships from the beginning, letting them know that I was, like we just discussed, that I was, I wasn't going to sell my integrity. I wasn't, going to take a bribe, and it's just about trusting. It's all about trust and loyalty. And so there was really one only in our group in the pink team. There was only one other fella that was interested in being captain as well, was Akira. And Akira is a great guy, and I trust that he wouldn't have taken the million also. And so between him and I, he had a bunch of friends on the pink team as well, and they were all supporting him to be team captain when the majority were all voting for me to be team
Mm,
captain. So between Akira and I, we just looked at the group and just said, hey, let's just let them decide, and says, hey, who do you want to represent us? And I think both of us are going to both say, whatever the bribe is, the answer is going to be no.
mm,
Uh, and that's just crazy because we had no idea what that number was going to be. And it was, I mean, it was just crazy. It
mm,
was exciting. It was emotional. It was, once they're just started, you see that on TV when they just started shouting, Dino, Dino, Dean, shouting me to be captain. And when I marched up the 5 flights of stairs to that rooftop of the towers, and then myself with the other three captains, and it was just exciting to be the leader of the group. Keep in mind that, I've only known these people for a few weeks,
mm,
right? And they trusted me, and then I trusted them that they picked me to be their captain, and I didn't want to let them down, and I didn't.
mm. One of the things you were talking about there, sort of, was that you were not going to take it at all. Since like the edit between episode 2 and episode 3, it sort of played it off that you were like it looked like you were leaning over about to press it, and like that was an interesting choice because I think there were a lot of motions from other people. So I want to hear your thoughts on why do you think they chose you as the person who almost leaned over and took it?
Yeah, I don't know. That was pretty good. I mean, that was a great cliffhanger. It just, focused on me looking down at that button, and then it just went to see like I was gonna reach over and hit it. And then everyone's looking up going, no, don't do it, and I told him, hey, I've got you guys. You guys mean more to me than that money. And
Yeah.
that was kind of what I shouted out to him. So, but and why did they pick me over the other three captains? I don't know. I think I was just having fun on the show. I was laughing and joking around and just being, having my good personality and just having fun with Jimmy and Mac and Nolan and Tarek. I was just getting along great with all those guys. And I was just having, a good old time just having fun. And maybe because I was more animated and, than the other ones, they were so serious that maybe that's why they picked me. But I was happy they did. That was fun.
Yeah. Did like turning down the $1 million get you farther in the games than you would have gotten?
You would have to think that whether it was myself or one of the other team captains, if we hit that button, now keep in mind, if you hit that button and accept the $1 million, I would get to stay in the game. I keep the $1 million. Jimmy would wire me the money that day or that next day. He would wire me the money, $1 million. However, those 59 people, because we had teams of 60, those 59 people would go home. So keep in mind, if I hit the button and took that $1 million, right, and those 59 people go home, now what would that next morning be like? We'd have the remaining people all looking at me thinking, oh, he's a liar, he's a snake, don't trust him, and so forth. So in the end, I was happy with my decision. Everything comes around, and I think about it often, and it's quite it was quite the
Yeah.
game.
Yeah. So then we go into episode 3, ends on the cliffhanger. Then you end up not taking the money, as we discussed. And then you do the potato sack race and get to your cube. So we don't really see what happens in your cube. So what happens?
So there was the after that, we basically we kept what in our term and what we would say on B City was we kept breaking Jimmy's games. And what I mean by that was he was planning on he couldn't believe nobody turned down everybody turned down the $1 million. Right? That wasn't in his plan, right? Because there was only so many people supposed to go to the red cubes. And so, since nobody took the $1 million, all of a sudden they had to rechange their game plan and they had to add more of those red boxes. There was only supposed to be two people to go in the red box challenge, but it turned out to be three people because none of us took the $1 million. So they had to keep changing their games because we kept breaking them, if you would, right? Things weren't happening the way they anticipated them to. So then let's fast forward. We did the potato sack race, and that was fine. But after that, we were all just kind of hanging around Beast City, having a good time. And then I had made friends with Vicky, 5520, and Mikey, um, Michael, and he was at 453. And so between 520 and 453 and myself, we were just we're a little bit older. I mean, I was the oldest one at 60 years old, but they were in their 50s, and I think so, or just short of 50. And so we were friends, and so we're all talking, and all of a sudden Jimmy says, "Hey, by the way, whoever you're standing, like we need you guys to get into teams of three." And we're thinking, "Oh, this okay? Gosh, I'm already talking to two of my friends. Let's." And Jimmy's so sneaky. You always got to watch out for that guy because there's always some underlining craziness, to his mentality. And so since we were together, we are already in our group of three. We said, hey, let's all be partners. And then we did a potato sack race. And after the potato sack race, he says, oh, now put these handcuffs on. You guys are going to go in the red box challenge. And so we were in there for 5 hours, right? That red box challenge was for 5 hours. And so you're basically in that room. And in our red box, we didn't get a whole lot of TV time, I guess you would say. But we, we just talked. We did some different games. I actually taught them CPR on how to save a life. I taught them. I said, and then we were just laughing and crying and just having a good old time. And then in the end, we end up playing some games, a dice game, some cards. It came down to we played a series of a bunch of games, and every time you won a game, you would get a point. And then the person with the less points at the end was the one that had to handcuff themselves to the wall. And so as we're playing the games, Mikey 453, he kept winning and winning and winning. So it came down to the point where we couldn't catch him, and so he was already safe. So 520 and I we end up rolling the dice for the last roll, and I end up rolling a six, and I think she rolled a four, and she had the lower number, and so she ended up having to lock herself up on the wall. And then that was it, man. And Mikey and I advanced to the next phase.
So did you just leave the red cube after that? Then she was just left there until someone got her, or what happened?
Yeah, yeah. So once the people are locked up to the red box challenge with a handcuff, then everybody else leaves and we all go back to B City. And then of course they're escorted and they get all their personal belongings and then they're gone. There was a lot of people asking for different things, like
Yeah.
the horse and dogs, and then they had the princess party, and the guy had the guy that shaved his head. He had Jimmy shave his head, and guys were getting tattoos, and yeah, so it was quite the challenge.
So then we go on to episode 4, where it's the helicopters to the island. And one of the things that I noticed is you got on the helicopter really fast. Is that just because of the connections that you were able to make in the games, or is there a different reason?
I think a little bit of a couple things there. The reason why I was picked on the helicopter, I think it was Misha who won the golden ticket. He found it underneath the ping pong table, and so what happened is that first helicopter, took off when they got his ticket, and then when that second round, that second ticket came up, they blew the whistle and everyone just took off running all over B City, looking for the next golden ticket. Next thing I know is we hear they blow the whistle and everybody runs back over. And Misha won the golden ticket. And so as he was picking his people to go on the helicopter, then he selected me uh, because we were friends. He was actually my roommate in the dorm, and then also he was on my pink team when I turned down the $1 million.
Hmm.
So he kind of paid it forward like the other people on the train tracks that I helped, none of them none of them wanted to help me, which was very sad. I felt very sad about that I saved them. They would have been home, had I taken that $1 million, but I was true to myself and they weren't true to me.
So what's the journey to the island like? The helicopter takes you to an airport. What happens?
From mainland to Beast Island was a 3 hour journey.
Mhm.
Right? And so we got there and that was a 63. So that's where we went first. We all went there. We got off on the boat and we all, we got on a little barge or whatever, and they drop us off on the island, and we're looking around, and you know, uh, they had like little tents set up, and they had a cafe, and they had a little like kind of a swimming pool, and they had like beaches. I mean, it was like 63 acres, was the island. There was a map of the island with different places, different names for different beaches and stuff like that. So we all got to kind of explore the island a little bit. And then that's where Jimmy went along. He had us all stand in line from the first helicopter, right? The six people from the first helicopter, and then our helicopter, and so forth. So everybody had to stand in line according to their helicopter. And then he went one by one, and he only wanted 10 people to compete for the island. I don't know if the viewers know that or not, but only 10 people were allowed to compete for the island. And so he just went down the line. Do you want to do it? Do you want to do it? And if you said yes, you went up on the little the platform there
Mhm.
on the stage. And then if you said no, you got back on the ferry. And he goes, "Do you want to do it? Do you want, and as everybody that said yes, if there happened to be more than 10 people, then he was going to do like a lottery draw and have somebody, wasn't going to do it. However, I think it turned out, I believe only 9 people did it.
Why did
Yeah.
you decline it? Because he explains this in the reunion how it betters your odds if you take it because it's a 1 in 10 chance of basically $2 million versus a 1 in 50 chance at 5 million.
Being the oldest one at 60 years old, I've had a bilateral knee I have two metal knees. I can't run. I'm not as fast as I used to be, and I knew it was going to be a series of like, speed and agility and competition. And I didn't think I had what it takes to go up against, these 20, 30-year olds. And so I thought I was just gonna step back on this one and just go to the other island, which they called Paradise Island, by the way. So I ended up going to with the rest of the group to Paradise Island, where we just lived on a five-star island, and we ate fantastic food and had smoothies and massages and swimming in the beach and volleyball and all kinds of, it was just a nice week-long vacation while they all competed. Now, keep in mind, every time they were going to do a challenge, the
Mhm.
9 people, the 10 people that were going to fight for the island, every time they were going to do a challenge, they collected all of us from Paradise Island on the boat and they took us over to on a super yacht. And so we were all on a super yacht and we could see the island, and we had TVs and we had live streaming. So we could watch the challenges live streaming as they were doing the challenges. We got to watch it while we're sitting on a super yacht.
Yeah, and then as we go into episode 6 here, we early on in the episode we see Jeff start talking about how you're rubbing a lot of people the wrong way. So that leads me into my question of, do you think you were portrayed more as a hero or a villain?
I think initially as a hero, like towards the end, is like they kind of tried to make me look like a villain, I think. But and I think and later on, and I spoke to Jeff about that. I'm all because him and I are friends, and it's like, Jeff, like where did that come from? And I think what it is it's this, to be quite honest. I'm proud of what I've done in my life. Being a Beverly Hills fire captain paramedic, I've been on the presidential medical team for, I've met 5 different presidents where I sleeping in the hotels 2 doors down from them, where I was their personal paramedic for Obama, for Clinton, for Gerald Ford. I've met Reagan. I've done President Clinton 3 times. I've met a ton of celebrities, Kobe Bryant, Jerry West. I mean, I've been to 25, 27 Golden Globes as, working as a fire marshal. And so people want to hear the stories. They ask me, hey, Dino, like, what's it like to be a Beverly Hills fireman? Like, do you ever see any celebrities or what kind of homes have you been into? Tell us some good stuff. Tell us some bad stuff. And so I have stories for days. I have good stuff, I have bad stuff, but I have lots of experiences. And so people are asking me questions about being a fireman in Beverly Hills. What's it like? And so I'm just sharing some of these exciting stories that people are initiating. And it comes off as bragging, I guess. And so yeah, I think that's where he's, that came off. He just thought that I seemed to be talking a lot about myself, but it was actually spun off of people asking me questions all the time.
Mhm. Okay, and then we eventually get to the choice of mental, physical, and chance. How did
Mhm.
you choose physical?
I think for me, the reason why I chose physical, and once again, I think for the mental game, I thought uh, mental. I thought I already did the mental, like by turning down the $1 million, right? I had to mentally focus on not taking it. This is the reason why I'm saving the people, my integrity, and so I figured I already did mental. I nailed it. As far as chance, I figured in the red box challenge, I did chance. And so my only option was to go physical and being a fireman, right? Being a fireman, I mean, I'm 6'2", 215 pounds, and I can pull fire hose. I've carried patients up and down. I've ran into burning buildings. I've rescued people. And so I've got stamina. I've got the smarts. I have technique. So I have a lot of experience on my side, and I thought I would be a good candidate for physical.
Yeah, one of the things that like my favorite part of physical was when you guys pulled the monster truck. What was that like?
That was crazy. So keep in mind, we had those 3 different challenges, right? We had the monster truck, and then we had racing for the flags, and then the hang test. So there was our physical challenge was the best out of 3 for each of the teams. And so as you saw, I mean, we had at this point we have no idea what we're doing. All we know is it's physical, and they put us in these shuttle buses, and we get out to this field, and it's completely dark. It's like 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. All the lights are off, pitch black. And all of a sudden, Jimmy yells, "Turn on the lights!" And boosh, the fire, the torches, the fire takes off, and the spotlights come on, and we see the monster trucks, and we're going, "Oh my gosh, this is gonna be crazy!" And then we did the push-up challenge as you saw. And then, I mean, I did, whatever, 14, 15 push-ups, and that was fine. I knew I wasn't going to win the thing, so I didn't want to get too tired trying to do as many as I could. We put on our jerseys, and then they strapped us. They put those harnesses on, and those things weighed 13,000 pounds. Those monster trucks were 13,000 pounds, and there was eight of us. So you do the math on how much each of us was responsible to pull, right? And it was tough. We had a hard time getting that thing going. I mean, we were just screaming and digging as hard as we could. It was so difficult.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like it's a monster truck. I mean, that's not something that you do every day.
Right. No. But yeah, as you watch that monster truck that challenge, I mean, that orange team, they just started moving. All of a sudden, they were a whole car length in front of us, right? And all of a sudden, we're barely getting the tires moving. And once we started moving, then we got a little bit of momentum. And then we're watching them, and they were just going. Those guys were monsters, so big and strong. And all of a sudden, they got stuck over that big speed bump. And we just kept trying, and we got it over and got it to the finish line and got won that challenge. So that was pretty awesome.
Yeah, so then we get into episode 7 with the trolley problem. We see Akira go up first, and did you know you were going to be safe until you're put on the track, or what? Did you ever think you were going to be eliminated at some point, or was this like the first time you were like, oh, I could be out?
I knew I was safe. Akira and I were we were friends, and of course we were on the pink team together. And I saved him, and I knew he told me he would save me, and so I knew he had my back, which I appreciated. And so when it came down, when we're all on the train tracks, and Jimmy says, "Hey, you guys need to pick a captain," and I felt in my mind, I felt I did my due diligence. Like for the Vegas rounds, right? I helped a lot of people in Vegas move along. And then I did throwing the ball in the red cup. I organized the teams for that. I turned down the $1 million. So I felt I stepped up and was a leader and a captain. There's a time to be a leader and there's a time to be a follower. And I thought I stepped up quite a bit already. And so when it came down to the train tracks, I thought, hey, I just kind of wanted to, step back on this one and not step down and be captain right away. And so with that said, Akura says, "I'm going to do it then." I said, "Perfect. I trust you." And so he stepped down and he did his thing. And as the other captains all stepped down, eventually, yeah, when it came down to that last go, all those different eliminations were happening. And then it came down to what was there? There was 12 of us left. And then Jimmy says, well, Queen, the one girl, they call her Queen. I don't know her number, but she kept saying, I'm gonna be captain, I'm gonna be captain." And so you see me give her a fist bump, and so she steps down to be captain, right? And
Yeah.
then Jimmy, after she steps down to be captain, then Jimmy, he announces, he says, "Oh, by the way," and he does this kind of stuff. He goes, "By the way, I forgot to tell you, whoever steps down as captain to gets picked, you're automatically in the top 10 and you're moving on to the top 10." And I looked back, Stoppo, I looked back and I quickly counted 1, 2, 3, 4. There was probably, I think, there's 5 people that I saved by not turning down turning down the $1 million. I look back, I'm thinking, oh, this is going to be a no-brainer. They're going to support me because I supported them and I saved them. And so I stepped down to be captain. And right then, everybody started going over to Tawana saying, "Dino stepped down to be captain. You got to go do it. You got to go do it." And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Tawana came and stepped down too. So now there's the three of us. And so, sure enough, when Jimmy was asking them to all, stand behind who you want to represent, and I think Emma was the first one, and she stepped behind Tawana, I couldn't believe it. I was like, "Are you kidding me?" And Jimmy asked her, he goes, "Emma, didn't Dino save you on the pink team?" She's, "Oh, yeah, I love you, Dino. Sorry." Like, F that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then the next one, and the next one, and the next one. And I thought, I'm done because between Tawana and I, it's like we never really spent much time together or talking or getting to know each other at all. And so I didn't really feel any love from her, and I'm sure she didn't feel any love from me. And with that said, I just knew when they all picked her, I knew my goose was cooked, and I was probably going to be going home.
Yeah, so you step down onto the tracks, Tawana selects you, and you choose 697 Jazz. Why did you choose Jazz?
Everything was just so crazy. I mean, the adrenaline, you're nervous, you're on the tracks. And when Jimmy says, "Hey, you get to pick someone to be on the tracks with you," and I look back, and everybody was scrambling. The remaining people that were on the platform, they're hiding behind each other, and I wish I would have taken a deep breath and gave it some more thought because I would have picked somebody else. You know, I, I think I would have picked somebody else. But basically, when I looked back, JC was standing there, and then I think Jazz was standing there, and everybody else, Jeff and Patrick and Mike, everyone was hiding, not about hiding, but everyone's just kind of in the background. And I wish I would have taken a deep breath and asked everyone just to kind of line up in a row where I could actually look at everybody in the eyes and just kind of revisit, you know, goods and bads about each one, and maybe took more time on my selection. But I believe, I think I remember him saying, like, come on, you've got to pick somebody, you got to pick somebody. It's, like now. And I'm like, like Jazz, and I was thinking, hey, she's a friend of Tawana's, right? She was a friend of Tawana's, and that was going to be my last stitch effort to save my own butt, was to pick one of her friends, and hopefully she would want to save her friend, which would save me. So it was a bit selfish, but I went with it, and it didn't work. She didn't care anyway.
Yeah, so it's like you see all these like news articles, but like everyone, like Reddit, whatnot, supports you a lot, and it's like, what are you gonna do? You had to save yourself. You had to stay in the game.
Yeah,
Yeah. Um. So you're eliminated, 11th place. Amazing, by the way, out of 2,000 people. Just need to
yeah,
point that out.
thank you.
So you got on the train. The train takes you somewhere. Where does the train take you?
Basically, as we stand there, the train blows us through, it runs us over. And then we get on the train, and it backs up, and we all just wave goodbye. And it just kind of takes you out of the picture frame. You get off the train, and then they put you in a bus, a shuttle, and they've already sent somebody to the Beast City, and your suitcase was already packed. They put all your stuff in a suitcase, and then and basically you go straight to the airport, and they got a plane for you to go home. It happens that quick.
Yeah, that is pretty quick. So
Yeah.
now you're out of the show. One of the other things I was wondering is that between clips of you and you actually being on the show, you get a lot of screen time even after you're eliminated. So what kind of impact do you think you had on the show as a whole?
I think I had a great impact. Thank you. I mean, a lot of compliments. I mean, like you said, I mean, as far as like Instagram, I'm not a big social media, guy per se, but I mean, I had an Instagram where I posted some stuff with my company, Celebrity CPR. But after the show, I think I'm up to about 4,000 followers now, which isn't, which is great. And it's just people that were just supporting me from all around the world. People invited me into their home. I mean, in Croatia, Peru, Argentina, Italy. I mean, so I travel quite a bit. I've, since the show ended, I mean, it's been over a year now, but I've been to, New York and Canada and Italy and a lot of different Hawaii, and just being recognized in all these different countries has been absolutely phenomenal. So, I mean, for example, just last month, my wife and I were in Italy for a family wedding, and after the wedding, we took the high-speed train to the Amalfi Coast, and while on the high-speed train, the conductor who's going by checking the tickets, he looked at me and he walked by. He looked at me and walked by, and his third pass, he goes, "Are you Dino 380 from Beast Games?" And I'm all like, "Sorry, this Italian, the train conductor." And so, so that was pretty exciting. So I've had people and I've had kids in the grocery stores, recognize me. When I go to my grandkids' school, I just did Grandparents' Day at my grandkids' school, and the kids all, knew who I was. And so it's been, after the show, the love and support that I've been getting from everybody has been phenomenal, and I treasure it, with all my heart.
So now we're gonna make up a scenario here. Let's say you won the $5/10 million. What would you do with that if you won?
I mean, being a firefighter and with my company teaching people to save lives, I wanted to help educate and put heart defibrillators and CPR training in schools and churches, around California or wherever I was, can get these things placed, and having, retired firefighters help teach classes and teaching people how to save lives. I think that's huge. For everyone to know how to help somebody if they're choking or a heart attack or a anaphylactic shock or a stroke or a seizure, just educating people on how to properly save a life. I think I was going to use some of the funds to help educate and put these life-saving machines in schools and churches, in addition to, helping the family and taking care of, family as well.
Yeah. So then after Beast Games, I think less people know about this, but there was a reunion filmed for Beast Games,
Mhm.
Top 60, I believe. Where's that filmed and how was that?
So yeah, you're right. So the top 60 were invited to the reunion show, and we all got to bring a guest. So I brought my wife. Um, and so yeah, I got a call from one of the producers just saying, "Hey Dino, we're doing a reunion show with the top 10, but we're going to invite, the top 60 for the audience, but we want to make sure you're like one of the biggest fans of the show. You're like the biggest most popular you're a fan, that's what I was, fan favorite. They said, "You're a fan favorite of the show. The numbers have been coming in that everyone's voting to you as a fan favorite. We want to make sure you're going to be in the here to the reunion because we want to bring you up on stage and and say a few words." And so yeah, so I showed up, and the filming was in Hollywood, and I live in Orange County, so it's not quick 45-minute drive for me. And so yeah, I showed up at a theater there in Hollywood where we did the filming, and yeah, so it was pretty exciting seeing everybody once again. Probably pulling the monster truck, and then and turning down that $1 million. I think between those two was pretty spectacular. I mean, that's just stuff I would have never expected to do in a lifetime. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I would have never thought I'd be pulling a monster truck at 60 years old, or getting offered $1 million, and for me to turn it down for 60 people, for 59 people that I just met, several weeks ago.
I thought the show was very well produced and glad that you were on it. So on that note, as we wrap up here, do you have any final thoughts on the show?
Uh, no, I think that's pretty good. There's going to be, these been approved for season 2 and season 3. Have you heard that?
Yes. I know about a month ago it was posted that they wrapped filming for season 2. So
Yeah. So that'll be fun. But yeah, so that'll be something to tune into and see if see what happens with that. So yeah, they already finished all the filming and stuff. So so that'll be exciting to see what happens.
bye, Dean. Thank you so much for being on and see you later.
All right,
Bye.
stop. Well, thanks for having me.
Bye.
Take care. Bye.